Every day, businesses are figuring out new ways they can creatively use AI to get more leads into their business. And I'm going to show you how you could do exactly that using these personalized AI action figures in your outreach messages. That's completely personalized based on your lead information. Normal outreach has a big problem, and that is it tends to be very generic and boring, so it gets outright ignored. There's no personalization, so it feels like spam. And even if you do get some AI personalization, it tends to be very low quality. So this leads to no positive responses and a lack of leads for your business. What we're going to do is we're going to change the playbook. We're going to use AI to create these hyper creative personalized images, and we're going to use these as a pattern interrupt. So it's going to get people to immediately see this as different to their other emails. That's then going to make them read the email. And since they've read the email and we've made the email personalized, we're going to increase the likelihood they actually respond. And all of this leads to more leads. I'm going to show you exactly how you can build an automation like this for your business. We're going to start off by looking at the tech stack you need to build this out. I'm going to show you how to scrape the data, how to create your prompt, generate the image, and then finally create the email. You're going to get this beautiful email with the image embedded into it. And if you stick to the end, I'm going to show you how you can get this entire automation that does this for you for free. So before we jump into it and dive into this, if you enjoy any part of this video, all I ask is for you to leave a comment, and I'm going to be choosing one comment from every video to get over $6,550 worth of AI automations and AI education. So just leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll be selecting one of you to win that prize. So this is the automation we have here, and we're creating this using a platform called n8n, which is how we bring all these tools together. At the same time, we're going to be using a platform called fal.ai. So here it is. And what fal.ai is, it's a platform that allows us to connect to lots of different AI image and video models. So we're going to use this to find some high quality AI image models, but we're not going to need to pay a subscription. This allows us to just pay for what we use, which is so useful. And the final platform we're going to be using is one called Apify. So this is how we're going to scrape all the information on our prospects. So we're going to be using a LinkedIn company detail scraper. We're going to be using one to get our LinkedIn profile details. And we're going to get a screenshot of our prospect site and use that to create the brand colors using this website screenshot generator. So those are the three tools we're going to be using: n8n, Apify, and fal.ai. So now we've just completed our first step, which is introducing the tech stack. So let's tick this off. There we go. So next is, how do we scrape the data? So this is our automation here. And I'm going to be showing you exactly how we can do this first step, which is get the data. But I'm going to build this out completely from scratch, because if anyone wants to create this themselves, you want to improve your skills in n8n and actually learn, you can just follow me step by step. So in order to trigger this automation, we're going to be using a form. So here we'll do on form. And there's lots of ways you can do this. If you want to send this in bulk to many people, you can use a Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets. But in this case, we're going to be using a form. The first thing we're going to do is add a title. So we'll call this action figure 4. Then we just want to add in the elements we need. So these are the information we need to create our picture. So the first thing is we want the name of the prospect we're reaching out to, because that's going to be on top of the image. Next thing we want to add is the company name. This is going to help us out when we do our research. Then we want to include the company website. Then if we keep going here, we want to add our personal LinkedIn URL, and then our company LinkedIn URL. So now that we have all of that, what we can do is we can execute this step, and we're going to get this form that we can fill out. So I'm going to fill it out with my own information. Here we have Omar, Omnivate AI. When you're adding your company website, you just want to make sure there's a HTTPS. Otherwise, it's not going to work. That's only because the scrapers we use, they expect this in the formatting. I'm going to add in my personal LinkedIn URL and then my company LinkedIn URL. Now I can submit that and we can see all this information has come through. This is how we get this data into the automation. And what I'm going to do to avoid going through and manually adding all that data again every time I want to test something is I'm just going to pin this data. So now instead of having to fill out the form every time, it's just going to send through that information. So we have the person we want to look up to create this image for. The next step is we just want to get some of their details, like their profile picture and other things like that. So to do that, I've made this a lot easier for you by already creating an automation that does all this research using Apify. So the way you're going to get this is you want to open a new automation in n8n. You want to create a workflow, and then you want to go import from file, and you're going to have this prospect research automation. I'm going to show you exactly how you can get this in the end. But here, you've now got this automation. You want to name it prospect research automation, and then you want to save it. So that's going to allow you to use this. Now, if we go back into our automation, what we can do is we can execute a sub workflow. All that's happening here is us saying, we have another workflow that we've already set up and we've done the hard work of doing that. We just want to use it for this step. So I've already set this up for you, and this should make this much easier for you to actually use. So we're going to execute this sub workflow and we're just going to find it. So depending on what you've named it, you want to find it here. So I've called this prospect research automation. And this is the one I'm sharing with all of you, Skool. And you see here, now we have all these details that this automation, this sub workflow is asking us for in order for it to work. So here we have the name, company name, all this information. And this is exactly what we've set up in our form. So what I can do here is I can just drag the information into this. I'm going to drag in the company name. I'm going to drag in the website, personal LinkedIn URL, and then the company LinkedIn URL. So what's happening here is we're adding all this information. This is then going to send this into this automation here. And then this is going to go through, and I've created this series of mini automations within this where we're going to basically be using Apify to scrape our our prospects' LinkedIn details. So now that we've set that up, what we want to do is the final step is add our Apify API key in order for this to work. So here we have a value to add our Apify API key. So in order to do that, go to Apify, just sign in, create an account. You can create it for free. Go to your console, and when you do, you want to go to settings, API integrations, and here's going to be your Apify API key. So I'm going to copy this, and this is a free account before anyone says why I'm sharing my API key. I'm going to go back into my automation. So this is the prospect research tool, and I'm just going to add my API key. That's as far as you need to do to use this, because everything else is already set up for you. So if this looks a bit complicated or overwhelming, for now, unless you really want to know, you don't need to know exactly how this is set up for you, and you can just use this whenever you like. So we're going to save this because it has the information. I'm going to go back to the main automation, and now if I press execute workflow, this is going to start working, and I'm going to get back a bunch of information on my prospect. So I want you to think of these like Lego bricks. Whenever you're creating these automations, it's good to create these sub workflows, and then you can just bring them in as Legos to really help you speed up your automations. This is exactly what we're doing here. So right now it's going to be going in, and it's going to be doing the research we're hoping for. So you can open this up here, press executions, and you can see that's running. And you can see it just finished now. So let's go back and see what it produced. So here, we've gotten back more information than we need just because of the way I've set this up. I use this across lots of different automations. So you're getting the text on their website, their LinkedIn about section, their first name, the last post they did. We're not actually using this information in this workflow. What we want is the profile picture, and we want the company logo. That's the things we're interested in. So all these extra stuff, we don't need them now, but when you create automations in the future, these is all really valuable information you can use. So I'm now going to pin this so we don't have to make this work every single time, right? And we're not wasting our Apify credits. So next thing we want to do now is get a screenshot of our prospect's website, because we're going to be taking that screenshot, analyzing the brand colors, and then using that to create our action figure. So here's the action figure that I've created. It's going to be the brand colors of my website. I use a lot of purples. So this is the level of personalization that this automation can do. So let's go back. What we want to do is we're going to add our Apify API key again. So I'm going to create a set node. We're just going to call this Apify API key. And what we're going to do is just going to add the key here, because we're going to use another Apify scraper to get the screenshot. So we're just going to say Apify key, and I'm going to paste in my key. So we're going to save this. Again, if I execute this, now the Apify key is being propagated through. So let me pin that. Now that I've done that, what I want to do next is get the screenshot of the website. So I'm using, let me find it, this one. So this is an Apify scraper where you give it a URL and then it brings back a screenshot of the website. So really useful. And in order for you to use this, you can say try for free. And then here, if you go to APIs, API endpoints, what we have here is basically saying, when we have an API, it's basically we're telling a service that we're trying to perform a certain action. And in this case, we're telling it we want to use the scraper to get the website and then get the screenshot of the website back. So we're just going to be copying this here. So we can copy this. And here we're saying it needs a post request. So this is just the type of API call we want to use. We're giving it information. That's why it's called post. So if this seems a bit complex, don't worry. I think it's good to have an understanding of APIs, but you can just follow along and still get the exact same results. So now we're going to be using a HTTP request node. Do you know where it said post before? So we're going to add post here. We're going to add our API key. And what we've done is, in this, our API key has been added automatically. You can keep it like that and it works. But what I do is, because I share this with all of you and I want to make it as easy as possible for you all to use it, I tend to add the API key and then drag it in so it's dynamic. Also, if I run out of credits, I want to make a new account or anything like that, it's easy to change. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to hit expression. I'm going to delete my Apify API key here, and I'm going to drag in this one. It's the exact same, but now I can just dynamically change it if I want to. There we go. So we have that. Now the next thing we want to do is send the body. So right now it has no idea what website we want to scrape or website we want to get a screenshot of. To do that, we want to send a body. We want to go here and write using JSON. So if we go back into our scraper, here it's giving us an example of what it is we need to send. So I went in, I pressed JSON, and what we can do is just copy this. So I'm going to copy this bit here, go back into my workflow, and then I'm going to paste this. There we go. So now it's copied in. If we were to run this now, what it's going to do is actually, it's going to scrape the Apify website, because where we say URL here, we don't have our URL that we want to use. So to do that, we're going to remove this. And then we can say from here, from the form, we have the website we're using. So here we go. And then we can drag this into here. So now we're using our website as the thing to send off. I think it didn't go in the right place. So let me do that again. Paste this in. Sometimes it's easier to make it larger as an expression. So we know we want to bring this in here. So let's delete that. I'm going to go on form submission. Here we can see our website. So we're just going to drag this in where it says URL. And here we go. Omnivate is coming up. So this is my website that it's going to use to get the screenshot. So yeah, fingers crossed. Let's test this out. Let's see if it works. Or have I messed anything up? This is the fun with n8n. And I want to give you tips as I create this, because if we're trying to get better at AI automations, it's good to know the best practices. What you can see is every time I'm doing another node, I am testing it out. I'm never doing 1, 2, 3 nodes, then pressing test, because there's so many things that can go wrong. So you always want to test it every single time, see if it works. If it does, pin the data so you're not running it each time, save, go to the next step. So I see a tick. This is promising. Okay. We've got a URL back. So let's see if this has worked and it's scraped my website. So I'm going to open up a new site. There we go. Perfect. So now I have this lovely screenshot of my website, and it can go through and analyze this for information, for colors. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So let's pin this data. And the final thing I want to do now is I want to pull all the information that I'm going to be using in our prompt to create the action figure. So we're going to go to a set node. I'm going to call this image URLs. And I know the three images I want to use to create this action figure image. The first one is going to be my profile picture from LinkedIn. The next one is going to be my company logo. And then I want to use my website screenshot. So let's add all this information in. So we know the website screenshot is here. We're going to drag this in. We're going to bring it here. Our profile photo and company logo we got from our sub workflow. So where is that? Click on here. If you scroll down, we can see my profile pictures here. So I can drag this in. And I can just show you actually, because the scraper we did before is so good. So if I were to copy this, I go in, there we go. We have a picture of my LinkedIn profile picture. Secret between me and you, I actually used AI to generate this. I don't have this suit, so this was generated with AI. Let's keep that between me and you. And then next is our company logo. So if we go down, here's our company logo. So we can drag this in. And let me show you as well. This is the Omnivate AI logo. It is Canva's finest work. So yeah, there we go. So now we have all that information. We can execute the step. And here we go. We're using the set node as well, just so rather than digging through all these different nodes when we want to reference it in the future, it's just neatly set out for us here. So now we've done the first step, which is getting the data we need. So I'm going to add in a little note, box this up, keep this nice and organized. And let's just call this capital get data. So if we go back into this, we've just learned how we can scrape the data we need. So we can tick this off. We've got the tech stack, we've scraped the data. Next, how do we create the prompt? So let's go back to our automation. We can save this. Next thing we want to do is create the prompt we're going to be using to send off and create the image. So what I want to do next is use a OpenAI messenger model node. So I'm going to type in OpenAI messenger model. Let's bring this here. Now, going into this, you want to choose your model. Right now, I've just been using ChatGPT 4.1. And then we want to have a prompt, a user message, and a system message. So let's get up the system message. And the difference between these two, the system message is like the information under the hood. Like we can tell it, in this case, I want you to create great prompts for us. They're going to be used to create this action figure, whatever it may be. Like we're giving it the hat it needs to wear. So maybe in this case, it's a prompt generator. Maybe in another case, we're saying you are a great LinkedIn copywriter. We're telling it how it should act. And in the user message, we're giving it the information it should use. So maybe we're giving it or in this exact example, we're going to be giving it stuff like the job role, the name, the pictures, whatever it may be. And it's going to be taking in that information. The system message tells it what to do with that information. So what I'm going to do in this case, let's start off with the system message. And I've prepared a prompt here, but I'll take you through it. If we go back to our image, what you can see that makes this really fun and special is not only do you have the action figure person here, you have these three objects next to them. So I have a laptop, I have a YouTube play button, and I have this mug with my logo on it. What I do is, first thing I use the LinkedIn About section and the company description to learn about the person I'm reaching out to. And based on that, I get AI to recommend 3 objects we can put in this that's personalized and related to them. So we're making this so personalized that it really wows and delights people. And this is part of the magic of how we're doing it. So we're going to do this in this prompt. So let us go back here and let me put this prompt in. Not yet, that's the one. And then I'll take you through it. So we're saying, based on the information you've been given about this person and their company, I want you to suggest 3 creative items that would go as accessories in their action figure pack. I'll give you examples. So examples could be software this company would likely use, as described as physical icons, hardware the company could use, e.g. a MacBook, and lifestyle products, e.g. coffee. So you're giving examples. And then here, I've just given it a few rules to make sure it works well, and then I tell it how I want to output it. So this is the prompt. And then we want to give it information so that it's has something to base these items on that's personalized to them. So again, we're going back to our super useful sub workflow where I have their about section, which is a gold mine for getting information from this. So here I'm going to type LinkedIn about section. And I'm just going to drag this information in. Oh, hold on. Always like this. Then I'm going to drag this information in. And then I'm also going to give it the company description. So if we scroll down, we have the LinkedIn company description. So it's going to use this information to come up with the items it should be using. Here we go, LinkedIn company description. You can see here, tip when you're creating prompts in n8n, always tell it how you want it to be outputted. And this tends to be in a JSON. So you don't need to be a technical expert in this. All you need to do is open up ChatGPT, say, I want a JSON that has 3 items in it, and it will literally just come and give you this back out. And then you want to have this ticked, output content as JSON. So now, if we execute this step, it's gone in, checked out my LinkedIn company description, it's checked out my LinkedIn About section, and has recommended 3 items. Let's see what is recommended. A YouTube play button, ChatGPT logo icon, and a coffee mug. And it's done this because in my description in LinkedIn, I talk about how I create YouTube videos, how I use AI. These are just some fun items we can use. So what I will do next is use a set node to pull this information out. So let's go set. I'm going to add a field. We're just going to call this items. And then let me drag this in here. So let me pin this. So I'm going to pin this. Quick keyboard shortcut. If you press this and press P, that pins it for you automatically. Or you can come in or press this here. It's good to use the keyboard shortcuts as well. Makes your workflow a lot quicker. Save this. Now, if I execute the workflow, let's see what we get. So here we have the items. YouTube play button, ChatGPT logo icon, and coffee mug. So let's try this out. One thing that you should be wary of though, is that here we have our square brackets. So sometimes when we have this, or we have the quotation marks, because we're going to use a prompt later on, this can cause this to error. And when I was testing my own workflow, this actually caused problems. So what we want to do is actually get rid of these. So let me show you how you can get rid of these using this edit fields node. And the way you do this is if I just get rid of this and you set it up like this, what we're doing is rather than calling all of it, we're just going to say we want the first item that's in the array here, comma, then the second item, comma, then the third item. So if I execute this step, we saw we got rid of the square brackets and the quotation marks. So this means when we're doing stuff later on, it's less likely to cause an error. You just know that if you're using square brackets or quotation marks, because this is used in the coding language within n8n, it can cause problems. So we've gotten rid of that and we're making our lives much easier later on. So now we have this set up. And then finally, we want to create our prompt. So our prompt, we're going to use another set node. We're going to call this the prompt rename. And here I just have the prompt. And I've prepared this for you as well. So you get to avoid all the difficult hassle of figuring out exactly how to set this up, and you can use what I've created. So this is going to be included when you download the automation. What we want to do is replace what I've already had now with what we've created. So first thing we're adding in terms of dynamic content to make this personalized is we can see here we have the name. What we want after that is the title. So we can get this through our automation. Get rid of this. We go back into our handy sub workflow. We should be able to find our title. I've just realized in the one we're using now, I actually haven't included title, but I made an update to a different one a bit later on. So let me show you exactly how I would include that now. So here's the execute workflow. Right now, we don't get the title back, and that's just because I didn't select this as information to be sent back. So I'll show you how you can get it. If we go back into this workflow, this is the sub workflow you downloaded. We get the title from our LinkedIn profile data. So right now, if I click this, or actually what we can do is go to executions. This is the one we just did, copy from editor. And we can see what information is passed through. So now if I click this, we can see we get all this information, which is way too much and all of it is useful. So I've pulled out the about section, the profile picture, and the first name. What I'm missing is the title, which we want to use. So here I can add a field. I can call it title. And then here I just want to go down and I want to find the title from this information. So here I can see the experience, I can see title, and then I can just drag this in. And then now we're going to get the title back. So once we save this and this gets executed next time, we're going to get the title. So what we want to do now is we want to go back to our automation. We want to save it. And here, where we've pinned this before, we want to unpin it and then run this again to get the new information. So I am going to execute the workflow. So now we're going to get this, let this run, and we're going to get the title. Okay, so now we've got the information back. We can see here we have the title. So for me, it's founder, AI marketing, sales specialist. We go back into the prompts now. And I want to show you, like, rather than cut these mistakes out, I'd rather show you how I go about and fix things in real time, because I think you learn a lot more that way. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you think this style is good or you'd rather something super polished. But yeah, I think like showing you these details as well is quite helpful. So here, now we have our first name. We want to add the title. So here's where we want to put the title. So we can go into our workflow. We can go to the title section. Here we have title. And then we can add that here. Perfect. Remember to add the space. And then if we remember, at this point, we have the 3 items we want to use to create it. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to add the 3 items we got ChatGPT to create for us. So let's drag these. here. So I'm not going to read this out to you, but this prompt basically tells it to create an action figure. We want it to have our name, Omar, the title, and use these 3 items to create it. So let's pin this again. So now if I execute this, I can pin these as well. And now we have the prompt we want to use all set up for us. I'm going to save this. And actually, we've now completed our next section, which is creating the prompt. So we're doing great right now. So let's keep this nice and organized, and we'll call this prompt. So now if we go back into here, we are mostly the way through. We're going to tick off create the prompt. Now we just need to generate the image and then create the email. We're almost there. So we'll go back. Here's our prompt. So we've got the data, we've got our prompt. Now we want to create the image. So how do we go about creating the image? The way we do this is one, using a HTTP node. This is going to be how we speak to fal.ai, which is our software, our application we're using that allows us to connect to all these great image models. So if we go into this, this is fal.ai, and we can select from a variety of different image models. The one we're using specifically is called Flux Pro Context Max Multi. So this one's really good. And the reason why we're using this one is because it gives us the option to add multiple images as input. So we can say these are 3 images and we want to use all 3 of them in different ways. And remember, we're doing that because we're going to be using one image, which is our profile picture. We're going to be using our logo. So let me go back here to make clearer. So we're adding our profile picture, which is going to use to create this action figure. We're using the logo that we're going to say add it to the picture, and we're giving it the website screenshot so it's in the right brand colors. So this is a crazy amount of personalization, but you can do it if you know what the right models are to use. And here we go. I've given you the exact model you should use, which is this one, Context Max Multi. And the way to get this to work in n8n is you want to go to APIs, and here it tells you how to use it. So just make sure in the table of contents you have HTTPC URL. And within this, it tells you how to submit a request and all the other things. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to submit a request. We're going to take this information. We're going to go into our automation, not this one. There we go. And now we just want to set this up. So the first thing we want to do is get our endpoint. So this is going to be this one. This is what we're going to be using to call the right AI image model. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to put it into here. Okay. This should be a post request. So we want to change this. Now, when we're entering our authorization, so here we can see it says header authorization, and then we need to add key and our API key. A quick tip when you're doing something in n8n and you're adding authorization, rather than adding it as a header, what you should do is go to generic credential type, go to header auth, and then here you can set this up once, and every time you want to use this, your information is saved. So I have mine saved here. So what you want to do is create a new credential. I'll just create one for you so you see the exact process. So I'm going to go back into the docs. I can see here I need to name it authorization. So we'll go into this, call it authorization, and in the value, so we need to do key space and get our API key. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So here we want to write key space and add the API key. And actually just really be careful because the K here is capital, and I've just realized I didn't put capital. So capital K, EY space, and let me show you how you can get your API key. So if you go to file, tends to be if you go to account, API keys, and then you can add a key, create a new key. So I've already created one, but you just want to add a key, get your right API key, go into the automation, and then paste it in here. Once you do that, you can save it and then you can press it. And that's going to be how you've now connected your fal account, fal.ai account to n8n. So we want to keep going. The next thing we want to do is add a JSON body. So this is going to be how we send across the prompt and all our URLs and everything like that. We're going to say using JSON, we're going to add the body, and we need to know what we need to put into here. So we're going to go back in, and it's telling us the exact structure we need to use here. So we need the prompt. This needs to be like data, needs to be prompt. Then we need the prompt here, and then we can add our series of URLs. So I've set this up already, but let me show you how you can do it. So I'm going to put this in here. Let's make this larger. And what you want to do is you want to add the prompt, pull in the prompt. So we've got this here. And then you want to add your URLs. So these are the URLs you want to add, but you want to drag yours in. And it's really important that you have this JSON.stringify, because what this does is, if you can see in these documents, we have the quotation marks around the URLs. It just basically gives it these quotation marks and gives it the right format so it works when you send it across. Simple as that. So these are the URLs here. And to make this easier, the way I've done it before, when I set up the image URLs node, I just added this underscore. So we're just going to go back. I'm going to rename this. We're going to add the underscore here. Now, when we go back into this, this is now going to work. So you can see we have JSON.stringify image underscore URLs, and then here is set up. And it's going to have the right formatting now to work. So now, when we send this request off, it's going to start the process of creating our image. That's great, but what it doesn't do is create it straight away. What we need to do after that is check, because it's going to send it across. And then when you check if it's created, normally if you check straight away, it's going to say in progress. It takes a few seconds for it to work. So we're going to create a very quick loop to make sure that we're checking. And when it's ready, we're able to actually get the image. So here, we're going to create another one called get image status. And if we go back into our API documentation, we can see like we have all these different information here to tell us how we know if it's working or not. So we can fetch request status. So what I've done is, in this case, I've created the node already where we can take this URL. Actually, let me show you how to do it from scratch, just so it's easier for you to understand the exact steps. So this case is going to be a get, because we're just getting information. We're going to paste in this request here. We're going to do our generic credential type, header auth. We're going to choose fal.ai so it knows what we're doing. And then here it says request ID. So we need to be able to add the request ID. Let me show you how this works. If I move this first, if I execute this workflow, so now we're going to actually go, and now we've just set up a request to try to get this to build the image for us. And we can see here, it says in queue, so it's working on it and it's giving us a request ID. So if I connect this one, and here, where it says request ID, I just want to delete this and then drag in the request ID we've just been given. Here's the request ID. Make this expression. There we go. So now if I execute the step, it's telling me it's completed. So that's great. Took me a while to do that, but you want to check first if it's working. And whilst we're here, let's have a quick look actually. There's a few more steps we need to do, but let's just see what we've created. Oh, because that's not the way you check it. So the way you check it actually, so we'll go through the steps and then you'll see exactly how you do it. I'm skipping ahead, getting a bit excited. So now that you checked it, what you want next is an if loop. This if loop is going to say, if the status, so we're going to drag this, is equal to in progress, because that's what it's going to say when it's not ready, right? So if it's equal to in progress, so that's true, zoom in, that's true. What we want it to do is wait, and we'll say 10 seconds. These tend to be created quite quickly. Then after that, what we want to do is loop back to here and then check the image again, right? Do this like this. But if it's not equal to in progress, that means it's finished. And then what we want to do at this point is get the image. So do HTTP request. And in this case, we want to now actually see the image. And this is what I was going to do before. So in order to do that, again, the way I would go about doing this is going into here and it says, this is how you get the result. So you need to use this process here. So we can go to this URL, which want to copy it, go into our automation. We can paste this in. Remember request ID here. So we need to add that right request ID and we need to add our credentials. So header auth. And then here's the fal.ai. I'm just going to pin these real quick so it doesn't go off and create it again. So execute workflow. I'm going to send that information across. And then here, fine. This obviously is not going to work because we haven't put the request ID in. So we're just going to remove this. And we're going to drag in the request ID. Make sure there's not a space there so it doesn't cause an error. And we can execute this step. So now we've got the URL we want here. So in order to do that, we want to just extract this URL because this is what we want to use. So I'm going to use a set node. And we're just going to extract the URL. So we just want to name this. It's really good. You want to name every single node as you go. It's really good practice. I'm going to name this image URL. And here we can just drag this in. Okay, so almost there. And then a quick tip is when you're using n8n, you've got an image URL and you want to see it in n8n rather than copying it, putting it into like Google or anything like that. You can just get another HTTP node. I execute the previous steps. I just need to drag in this image URL here. Then now when I execute this, it should come up. So now we can view our image. And there we go. We viewed our image. We have Omar, we have my logo, founder of AI marketing, a sales specialist, and we have some fun items that is created. So pretty cool. So this is how we've now got the image. We're almost there. So if you go back in, we've generated the image. So it can tick that off. You can now create the email, and then I can show you how you can get the workflow for free. So now we want to create the email. And this final step is fairly easy. We want to go back into our automation. Again, I'm going to add a note. So in order the shortcut I use to get this note straight away, rather than right clicking and adding edit, add a sticky note, is Shift S. I want to teach you the hacks here as we create this. And in order to do that, well, we've created it. So now we just want to say we've generated the image, keeping everything nice and organized. Generate image. Now the final step is creating the email. So at this point, you can do a few things. If you're using an email outreach platform like Instantly or something, all you're going to want to do is create a bunch of these URLs, and then you can automatically add it to your email sending platform. So at this point, you want to upload this to like a Google Sheets. But in this case, I'm just going to do a much simpler implementation. If you want to do this on a one-to-one basis, is we're going to send this straight to Gmail. So to do that, I type Gmail. You can create a draft. And then here, what you want to do is, I just went into ChatGPT and I added, well, first thing we'll do, sorry, is add HTML, because this is going to allow us to embed the image into our email. And I just went into ChatGPT and asked it, how can I embed this image? It gave me this bit of code. and we're just pulling in our image URL here, and we're getting this bit of HTML. HTML is just a bit of a language, a coding language to see how we display things on the internet. So we get this here. We can add a subject line, so we can call this test or whatever you like. And now when we execute this, we are going to get this in our email draft inbox. And this is what I get here. So you get this and you get it in your email draft inbox. And there we go. Now we have the full automation. So we go back here. And that's the Gmail bit. So let's tick this off. Boom. So what I've done is, rather than just giving you a high level overview, I've actually gone through and created this node by node so that you can learn more and be able to follow along much easier at home. Let me know if you like this style of video. Before, I would do a much quicker video that you could just kind of get an idea of how it works. If you like these longer styles of videos, let me know and I can create more automations where I really break them down step by step. So this is the automation itself. If you want to skip all of that and just get it ready made for you, then you can do that. And the way you do that is by going into the description, I have a document, and from there, it will show you that how you can join my free AI business community. So you don't need to pay anything to get into this. This has now over 1,200 entrepreneurs learning how to use AI in their business. There's people talking about n8n, looking for co-founders, lots of like really interesting conversation happening here. At the same time, if you go to the classroom section and go into AI workflows and resources, I've called this action figure automation. You can just go in. Here, you can download the prospect research sub workflow and the action figure automation, which is the one we've just created. So let's just do one, for example, download this. Now that I've downloaded it, if I open n8n, create a new workflow, click the three dots here, import from file, and then I can just choose the one I've just added. And there you go. You want to save it and you'll be able to get it. Do the same thing for the other file. So that's how you can get this completely for free. If you want to take your learning even further, I have the AI Business Guild Pro. So this is a pro community, and this is for entrepreneurs that really want to take their learning deeper. So this is broken down across 4 stages, where first you learn how to do basic things in n8n. Because if any of this felt overwhelming, a bit too technical, we show you the fundamentals of n8n, automations, and how to create AI agents. And we take you through all the different technical concepts you need to know when using something like n8n. Then you get lots of sales and marketing automations just like this. So you can automate business tasks as well as other automations for your business in general. So then you go to automate. We then take you to advanced AI systems. So you learn vibe coding, learn how to create things like voice agents, RAG agents, a lot more advanced topics. And then finally, we all know n8n is changing constantly. The AI industry is changing constantly. So through this, you get a very strong community of AI entrepreneurs. You get weekly calls, tech support in n8n, mastermind, and everyone who joins also gets private coaching. So that could be for anyone who wants to take their AI learning a bit deeper. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some value from it. And if you did, I really appreciate just leaving a comment, telling me what you think. And yeah, I'll see you next time.